So, I think most of us probably assume that the most dangerous part of driving is, some grueling cross-country highway trip in the pouring rain.
Right, yeah. The situations where you have to be hyper alert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We grip the steering wheel, we turn down the radio, and we just intensely focus on the road.
Hmm.
But statistically, and really tragically, the moment you are actually most likely to make a fatal decision on the road is when you're just, like, 3 blocks from your own driveway, just running out to grab milk on a Tuesday afternoon.
It is a terrifying paradox of human behavior, honestly.
Yeah.
We inherently associate danger with the unfamiliar.
Right.
So when we are navigating our own street, our brain basically powers down its threat detection systems. We feel safe simply because, we know the landscape.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that paradox is exactly what we are exploring today. Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. We are looking exclusively at Chapter 10 of a book called HarGhar Se EkSainik.
Which translates to Save Lives, Save Nation by Syed Abdul Hakim.
Right. And the mission of this deep dive today is to extract a completely new perspective on road safety from this chapter. We are stripping away the boring statistics, the legal jargon, all of that.
Because that stuff just makes people tune out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Instead, we're looking at the deeply personal, moral responsibilities we carry every single time we step out the door.
Yeah, and to touch on what you just said, statistics really do have a way of numbing us. When we hear a massive number of accidents, our brains naturally distance us from the reality of it. It just becomes abstract.
It's just a number on a page.
Exactly. But the author avoids that trap by rooting this entire philosophy in a very human, unignorable reality. The chapter anchors itself on a mother asking a question that just, it stops you cold. She
Yeah.
asks, who do I cook for now?
Oh man, that story is just devastating to read. The text details this son, who was basically his mother's whole world. She had worked in other people's homes for years, saving every rupee just to build his future. And then, one afternoon, he takes a borrowed bike for a quick errand. And he leaves his helmet behind because the store is just, that down the street. It's a familiar road. He probably felt like he could drive it with his eyes closed.
He felt the trip was just too short to demand caution, and he never came home.
Wow.
The author uses this specific tragedy to illustrate a really brutal truth. The road does not know your itinerary. Tarmac doesn't care if you're driving 3,000 miles or 300 yards.
It's like leaving a campfire burning right in the middle of your living room because you're just running next door for 5 minutes.
That's a great way to put it.
A house fire doesn't pause to check how far away you went. It just burns. And the physics of the road are just as indifferent to your schedule.
What's fascinating here is, if we look at the psychology behind why we make those choices, it's rooted in a cognitive phenomenon known as inattentional blindness.
Okay, wait, what is that exactly?
Well, when you navigate a highly familiar environment, your brain tries to conserve processing energy, so it shifts into an autopilot state. You literally stop registering details.
Like what kind of details?
Like a parked car suddenly pulling out, or a pedestrian stepping off the curb. You just don't see it because your brain assumes it already knows what the street looks like.
So the very moment we are surrounded by neighborhood pedestrians, kids playing, all of that, our brain has basically hung up a gone fishing sign.
Precisely. Danger lives in these private passing moments when caution just feels optional. We tell ourselves we know this stretch of road like the back of our hand, but the asphalt doesn't care about your history with it.
No, it doesn't.
The road strips away our internal excuses and forces absolute accountability.
But, no one actually intends to be reckless, right?
Right.
Nobody goes to a driving instructor and learns to just ignore a helmet for a short trip. It's not in any manual.
Yeah.
So where are we picking up this habit of treating safety as a casual option?
We pick it up long before we ever sit behind a steering wheel, actually. We learn it in what the author calls the backseat classroom.
The backseat classroom. That phrase really stuck with me.
Yeah, the family car is our very first driving simulator, and the curriculum there is entirely silent.
Because kids are just sitting back there in their car seats, absorbing adult behavior like little sponges.
Exactly. Children possess this incredibly open recording attention. If a parent leaves a helmet hanging on a hook as they walk out, or, skips a seatbelt because they are just driving to the local market.
The kid notices that.
Right. And the child doesn't process that as a temporary violation of a rule. They process it as the baseline definition of normal.
Let me play devil's advocate for the listener for a second, though.
Sure.
What does this all mean for a stressed-out parent who's stuck in traffic and just wants to check one quick text at a red light? Are we really saying that one text rewires a kid's brain? That feels like a really heavy burden to place on a 5-second action.
It is a massive burden,
Yeah.
but the psychological mechanism completely supports it.
Really?
Yes. Because children do not learn from what adults say. They learn from what adults do when they think no one important is watching.
Wow, that is heavy.
To a child, the parent is the absolute center of the universe. Their actions construct the child's reality. When you text at a red light, you aren't just breaking a local traffic law. You are silently, powerfully communicating to your child that screens and moving vehicles belong together.
Like, the road doesn't actually require my full presence.
Exactly.
So you're basically pre-programming their teenage driving habits when they are like 6 years old.
Yeah. And the author notes that the neurological window for this kind of foundational habit forming actually closes around age 14.
Wait, really? Just 14?
Just 14. After that point, the core programming is installed. Any government road safety campaign or traffic fine they encounter later in life is basically just an attempt to straighten a branch that is already deeply bent.
Which is why the book suggests replacing those bad habits with a very specific spoken ritual, right?
Yes. It advocates for making the phrase, "come home safe," the daily out-loud sound of departure in every single household.
I love that. It shifts the entire mindset from, I need to avoid a ticket to I need to honor my family's trust.
It completely changes safety from a legal obligation to a moral one.
But that physical backseat is eventually replaced by a digital one, right? By the time that kid gets a smartphone, they aren't just watching their parents commute anymore.
No, they're moving into a much wider, much wilder classroom.
Yeah, they are watching a highly curated feed of consequence-free driving stunts.
This is a really critical transition in Chapter 10. Young people, who the author refers to as the real generation, are exposed to endless short-form videos of high-speed chases, drifting, and just generally reckless overtaking.
And because human beings are imitative creatures, they're copying it.
Exactly.
It creates a massive disconnect.
Right.
Social media creates what I'd call like a cropping error in young drivers' minds.
A cropping error.
Yeah, like it shows the physics of a stunt. The speed, the drift, the adrenaline, but it completely crops out the kinetic energy transferring into a concrete guardrail at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like watching a magic trick on YouTube and believing the illusion is actual real-world physics. Or like playing a video game, throwing your controller down, and realizing too late that real life doesn't have a respawn button.
That framing is crucial because in a movie or a professional stunt video, there are structural engineers calculating vectors. The roads are entirely closed to the public.
And there are ambulances waiting right off camera.
Exactly. Drivers have hidden 5-point safety harnesses. But when a teenager tries to replicate that on a public road just to get likes on an app, they are dealing with tarmac physics.
And tarmac physics do not have a respawn button.
No, they don't. Gravity is entirely unforgiving. You only get one take. Social media essentially edits out the hospital room and the courtroom. It equates dangerous driving with freedom and power.
But how do you combat that cultural force? We can't just ban social media. And parents can't possibly monitor every single group chat their teenager is in.
You don't have to monitor every chat, actually. The author offers a surprisingly simple peer-to-peer solution for this exact scenario.
No. What is it?
It happens in the specific moment a video of reckless driving is shared among friends. Usually everyone responds with fire emojis or laughing faces, which creates this loop of collective endorsement.
Right, it's digital peer pressure.
Exactly. So the intervention is just one trusted friend replying quietly with something like, "That made me uncomfortable."
Just that made me uncomfortable.
Or that could have been someone's last morning. Something simple. It instantly disrupts the echo chamber.
I really like that approach. It's not a preachy lecture.
No, not at all.
It doesn't sound like a parent scolding them, which we know teenagers will just tune out anyway.
Because it isn't a lecture. It is a sudden reintroduction of reality into a fantasy space. In those group chats, silence is permission. When you speak up with just a few words, you completely revoke that permission.
That's powerful.
You plant a seed of doubt that will sit in the back of their mind the next time they're behind the wheel and tempted to show off for the camera.
Which opens up a huge conversation about the currency of influence. We usually think of influence as something that exclusively belongs to celebrities or politicians with massive followings.
And the book does address them as part of the solution.
Right. It makes a direct appeal to public figures, athletes, film stars, spiritual leaders.
These are people whose daily habits, clothing choices, and behaviors are observed and imitated by millions.
Yeah.
The author argues that a massive multi-million-dollar government-funded safety campaign is often way less effective than one beloved celebrity simply posting a photo of themselves wearing a helmet.
Just living their life normally, but safely. Not even doing a sponsored ad, just putting on a seatbelt in a daily vlog, or a musician dropping one honest line in a song about making sure you come home to your family.
Because audiences follow people, not institutions. If a trusted spiritual leader normalizes safety, their followers will adopt it out of a sincere desire to emulate someone they respect.
Rather than out of a begrudging fear of getting fined by the traffic police.
Exactly.
But here is where the source material gets really empowering for the rest of us, I think. The author pivots right back to you, the listener. It makes the case that you don't need 1 million followers to change this culture, because influence is ultimately just about proximity.
That is the core mechanism of cultural shift. We often assume change broadcasts from the top down, but it actually spreads horizontally, person to person. Human beings are fundamentally shaped by the people they trust and spend time with.
You are basically setting the weather for your own microclimate. You don't have to be famous. You just have to be a good friend who is willing to endure like 30 seconds of awkwardness to take the keys away from a buddy who has had too much to drink.
Right.
Or you can be the passenger who just says, hey, I'm getting a little nervous. Do you mind slowing down?
When you actively model safe behavior, when you consciously put your phone away in the glove box while driving, or when you buckle your seatbelt in the back of a cab without making a fuss about it, you become a highly effective influencer in your own physical radius.
You establish a completely new standard for your immediate circle.
And over time, the person without a helmet becomes the one who feels out of place, rather than the other way around. The culture shifts simply because the people we eat dinner with decided that our physical lives matter more than our temporary convenience.
That's a profound shift. But we can't put this entirely on the individual, can we? While personal responsibility is paramount, individuals are operating within larger, often flawed systems.
Absolutely. The final layer of Chapter 10 dives into what we might call the institutional ripple effect.
Yes, let's definitely unpack the systemic side of this because it affects so many people commuting every single day. The book demands that organizations take responsibility too. Like, corporations must view a safe commute as a fundamental part of employee wellness.
Think about the glaring contradiction in modern corporate culture. A company might offer excellent health insurance, gym memberships, and mental health days as perks.
Sure.
But if that same company has an absolutely rigid policy that you must be at your desk by 9:00 a.m., regardless of monsoon rains, gridlock traffic, or broken public transit, they are actively incentivizing lethal risks.
Oh, absolutely. If an employee's economic survival, like keeping their job, is pitted against their physical survival on the road, they're going to take the physical risk almost every time.
Every time.
They will speed, they will weave blindly through traffic because the immediate, terrifying threat of being fired feels much more pressing than the abstract, statistical threat of a crash.
That is the exact mechanism the author is highlighting. A truly responsible corporation has to acknowledge the commute as part of the workday's impact.
Offering flexible hours during severe weather, supporting carpools, or not penalizing someone who is 10 minutes late due to an accident on the highway.
Those aren't just HR perks, they are life-saving policies.
The book also brings this systemic view down to the neighborhood level, specifically looking at resident welfare associations, or RWAs.
RWAs usually focus on managing the community water supply, hiring security guards, and making sure the parks are maintained.
Right.
The author argues they need to aggressively extend that mandate to safety at the colony gates.
Like if you have a tight-knit community, the RWA could easily enforce a rule saying no resident leaves this gate on a two-wheeler without a helmet.
Precisely. They are in a unique position to start these conversations organically. It's neighbors talking to neighbors, rather than relying on a traffic cop 2 miles down the road who doesn't even know you.
It's like treating the town's water supply, instead of just waiting to treat sick patients at the hospital. It's preventative community care.
I love that analogy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text makes a profound argument that preventable road loss is the ultimate failure of infrastructure and national development.
We see politicians cutting ribbons on these massive multi-lane expressways all the time, right? celebrating how fast you can get from city to city.
Yeah, but if a highway saves 10 minutes of travel time while lacking proper lighting, safe pedestrian crossings, or basic signage, it's a massive failure.
It is an incomplete achievement.
In urban planning, there is a concept called systemic forgiveness.
Systemic forgiveness.
Yeah. A well-designed infrastructure forgives human error. If a distracted driver drifts, they hit a rumble strip that wakes them up, not a solid concrete pillar.
Right, that makes total sense.
If a road design demands absolute perfection from every single driver at every single second just to survive, it is a failed design. True societal development isn't measured by the volume of asphalt poured. It is measured by the systems in place that keep people alive to actually use that asphalt.
Safety has to be woven into the fabric of development from the ground up, not just painted on as an afterthought once the road is already open.
Precisely. If a city builds a road but fails to coordinate with the traffic department for enforcement and the medical department for rapid trauma response, they have essentially built a high-speed hazard, not a public utility.
This all forces such a massive shift in how we view our daily commute.
Yeah.
I mean, we've covered a lot of ground today exploring Chapter 10, moving from the deeply personal pain of a mother's loss in a single household, all the way up to the systemic responsibilities of massive corporations and urban planners.
We really have.
So let's distill the core takeaways for you from this deep dive.
First, the road operates on absolute physics, not your good intentions or your familiarity with the route. It does not negotiate.
Right.
Second, your influence is defined by your proximity. You change the culture of the road by changing the habits of the 5 people closest to you.
And third, safety is a daily moral choice. It's not just about legal compliance or avoiding a fine from a traffic camera. It's about shifting our perspective to protect life, simply because human life is incredibly valuable.
We must keep the ultimate stakes in mind. The trust of your family, the meal kept warm on the stove, the front door left unlocked because they know you are coming back.
Yeah.
These are incredibly fragile things. They rely entirely on the deliberate decisions you make in those brief, passing moments of your commute.
It all comes back to realizing that the feeling of safety on familiar roads is just an illusion. Every single trip requires your active presence. So we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. The next time you grab your keys and head out the door, ask yourself, who is the invisible passenger in your life whose habits you are shaping right now?
A very powerful question to carry with you.
And what is the one tiny habit you're going to change today to guarantee that you come home safe? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it leaves you feeling empowered, thoughtful, and ready to take the wheel with a completely new perspective. Until next time, take care, and please come home safe.